So one of the biggest sort of pitfalls, traps that many of us fall into is a type of overthinking that actually pushes our nervous system into panic. Okay? So one of the things that happens is when we are afraid of something. So the way I explain that is it's like someone knocking on the door of your home. When someone knocks on the door of your home, you can't control who knocks. But imagine that you look through the little peephole and you see that it's a man standing there holding a knife and a gun and a rifle and a machete. He is like just very well kitted. And he's nice enough to ring the doorbell, okay? And you're looking through there and you're like, I don't know. Maybe I should open the door, let him in and give him some biryani, right? You're not going to do that, right? You're going to keep the door closed and you're going to probably call the police. Everybody with me? Yeah. That man holding all, you'll never forget this example, inshallah. That man standing there holding all these weapons is a negative thought. Everybody with me? A negative thought. That can come as something we're afraid of, something from the past, something we didn't like, something someone did that hurt us, whatever it is. A negative thought about another person, any negative thought, whether it's a fear, an anxiety, something that we're ashamed of. It's that man standing there holding all these weapons. We cannot control what thought knocks on the door of our mind, but we can control which thoughts we let in and serve biryani and chai. Exactly. What we tend to do is we open the door to these thoughts. We say, tafaddal, come on in. Stay a while. Welcome. Come on in. Let me feed you. Let me make you comfortable. And then we wonder why he's caused so much harm. But who did that? Well, we did that. We did that because we also give space to these thoughts. And then we don't just give space, we feed them. We feed them. So a big part of health is managing thoughts. You have to be very, very picky about who and what gets space in your mind, because that affects everything. So we have to learn how to manage thoughts. That's a big part of mental health. Managing thoughts. I have like a formula in Healing the Emptiness about how to deal with things we're afraid of. It's just like literally a formula, 2 steps. The first step is, well, it's 3 steps. Let's put it that way. First, do not open the door. Like, don't open the door. Keep it closed. Do not feed. Do not entertain. Do not sit and think about all the different scenarios. You know what I mean? Like, if you're afraid of something, you're like, I'm afraid of this thing happening. What do? We think about, well, this is what's going to happen if it happens. And then this is going to happen. And then that's going to happen. And then this is going to happen. And then this is going to happen. And then the whole world ends very quickly. And it just like goes really quick. You end up, the world is over. And where has all of that happened? In your mind, while you're safe in your chair. And guess what? This is the scary part. You want to know the scariest part? The nervous system doesn't know the difference. See this thing we have we got one nervous system, you got to take care of it. Because if you mess up your nervous system, all disease comes from there. All illness comes from that, by the way. All illness is inflammation. Cancer is inflammation. You understand? And what is inflammation? It's a nervous system that is constantly in fight or flight. Constantly in high alert, panic mode. Now, if I'm sitting comfortably in my chair and I'm telling my nervous system that I am unsafe all the time, I'm always unsafe because I'm in my mind, I'm thinking about the lion. There doesn't need to be a lion. My nervous system thinks there's a lion. To the nervous system, there's already a lion and he's eaten up my whole family. Because why? Because I did it here. I went through the whole, it's like It's like a rehearsal for disaster. It's a dress rehearsal for disaster. And I've done it here. But to my body, it's actually happening. Do you know that that's actually happening? So that's why we have to manage our thoughts. Because in my body, the adrenaline is being pumped, the cortisol is there, the high blood pressure, the high blood sugar, all of that is happening, even though I'm in my chair. Because in my mind, it's happening. Yes, we need to think. Can I tell you something? So interesting. We think that overthinking is gonna solve a problem. Do you want to know something fascinating? Like this is basic neuroscience. Everybody with me? Everybody with me? When you're overthinking, your problem solving apparatus is offline. Overthinking does not happen in the prefrontal cortex. Overthinking happens in a network of the brain called the default mode network. You can research this. Default mode network is overthinking. Rumination doesn't happen here. Problem solving happens here. Rumination and overthinking, do you know what it is? It's practicing the problem. Overthinking is not finding a solution. It's practicing the problem. I know, like my husband, he's so good. I always say this to him. You're so good at describing the problem to me. Like all the ways that this is a problem. I get it. But can we talk about solutions? Right? You know what I'm saying?
It's interesting too because we think that, and I remember reading this with Brene Brown, it's like we think that when we dress rehearse tragedy, we can prepare ourselves for an emotional situation.
Yes.
But it actually doesn't do that.
No, it doesn't.
Your nervous system in disarray.
You're practicing the problem before it's even a problem.
So how do we guide ourselves to go to finding solutions?
Great. Okay, so great question. There's actual things you can do to shut off the default mode network and to get into the prefrontal cortex. You know what one of them is? Is writing, journaling. Journaling forces you into your prefrontal cortex because you're naming the issue. You're actually putting pen to paper and you're actually having to use your problem solving. Rumination, overthinking is not in your prefrontal cortex. So when you journal, that's actually one of the ways to turn off the default mode network. Another thing that turns off the default mode network is going for a walk. Going for a walk, especially when you are naming things that you can see, hear, touch, feel. So default mode network is in the mind. The way to get out of that is to get into the body. Focusing on your breathing. That's why they say focusing on your breathing, box breathing, right? Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale longer. Just even doing that will calm the default mode network. And journaling, going for a walk, basically getting into your senses will get you out of your head. Okay? One last thing I'll say about overthinking. Not only does it not come up with a solution because you're practicing the problem, you're not in your problem-solving brain, is that overthinking is often a way to avoid uncomfortable emotions. It's not. I'll tell you what it is. It definitely makes you uncomfortable. But what happens is a lot of people go into their head to avoid the feeling in their body. Got it? So like, I don't want to feel disappointment. I don't want to feel out of control. I don't want to feel afraid. So I go into my mind. So it's an escape. So one way it's explained is that overthinking is underfeeling. When you want to avoid the feeling, you go in your head. It's an escape from the feeling. It's interesting because the solution is actually you have to feel your feelings. You're like you gotta feel your feelings. you.
What about if we don't think at all?
Well, sometimes that's just a freeze response.
Yeah, I think so. It's just like
I mean, all of these are just defense mechanisms. You have to deal with the situation without making it worse than it is. Right? Like you deal. So let me just go back to the robber who's at your door. The robber who's at your door, you do not open the door, you do not feed it, right? But what do? Well, you call the police, yeah? So in this case, when you have something at your door that you're afraid of, like there's a thought you're afraid of, number one, do not feed it. Number two, call on Allah. Immediately make dua. Immediately make dua about the thing you're afraid of. See, a lot of times when we overthink, we don't even think to make dua. We're just literally in a loop. Just practicing the problem, going through the scenario, thinking about the lion eating our whole family. But we have not asked Allah protect us from the lion. Do you understand? It's because it's actually not in our prefrontal. We don't even. Where do you think dua happens? Dua happens in our prefrontal cortex. That is conscious mind. So when we're in our overthinking, we're not in our conscious mind. We don't even think to make dua. Yeah? So keep the door closed, make dua. Number three, action. Is there an action I need to take? Do I need to get a security system? Do I need to call my kid's school? Do I need to call the doctor? An action. And if there is an action and it's halal and legal, take the action, but keep the door closed. See that? That's one example of how to deal with when the robber is a fear or something you're anxious about. Make sense? That makes sense? Okay. Any other questions? or reflections? I think you had.
So when you were talking about like partner,
I think you also had your hand up. Yes.
like husband and a wife. So you say like they always think they are fine.
They're fine, yeah, and you're oversensitive.
Maybe we also think we are fine.
Yeah. Oftentimes everyone thinks they're fine.
So how would we know who's not fine?
Good question. It's not about one person's perfect, the other person's not fine. My point is we all.
Which one of us is crazy?
Which one of us is crazy? My point is this: we all have unconscious programming, not just one person. Everyone has it. The person who's conscious and works on it is going to be the one who's healing and growing. It's not about one person's just perfect and the other person's messed up. It's that everybody has unconscious programming. But when you become conscious of it and you work on it, then that's how you grow and that's how you heal. So it's about being conscious of it. It's not about pointing fingers at who's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And you had a question? Yeah.
I had a question. So, might be statement or question. If somebody is uneducated, trying to make a call, they're stuck in the fire.
Yeah.
So, they don't know how to make call 911. They don't know anything. They don't know where to go, what to do, and everything.
Yep.
In that situation, a lot of people who are educated and everything now, they do all these things. They understand, and they don't even. They probably are more stronger than their husband or wife,
Yeah.
whatever. If they are educated, and whoever's bringing the money in, that person is more stronger in the family. What I'm seeing. So the question is, that person is, what should that person do who's not educated?
Who's not educated?
Not educated and
Okay.
doesn't know how to make calls.
So I'll repeat her question. Yeah. So her question is like, in the case of the house is on fire, what about the person who's not educated and doesn't know how to make the call or doesn't know how to get out of that situation? What do we do about that? And I think that this is a case where it becomes also the responsibility of the community to support these people and having systems to support them. So that, because we're not, as an ummah, we're not supposed to be on our own, right? The Prophet ﷺ said that the ummah is like one body, and if one part of that body is in pain, the whole body responds with fever. So this is where community comes in, right? We're not supposed to be on our own.
He's afraid of talking to the community because in our culture,
You're right.
we don't talk to the community.
You're right. But these are the things that we have to try to change. We have to try to change this. How are we going to change the community? The way we're going to change the community is by changing ourselves and then changing the way we raise our children.
Yeah, but the community doesn't know what's going on there.
As a community.
True.
If I'm going to someone
That they're going to, yeah.
or my problem or what is my issue, they will help me or they
Yeah.
will take it like
There's a trust issues, yeah.
Just as you and maybe they make fun of you
Yeah, or they shame you. So number one, I have to say, number one has to be, number one has to be, we put our trust in Allah. Remember when I was talking about the robber at the door, right? The first thing you do is call on Allah. So when your house is on fire, the first thing is to turn to Allah. That is step one. That is the help, asking Allah for help, putting your trust in Allah, turning to Allah, asking Allah, send me people who can help. Send me people who can support me. Help me, Ya Allah. Allah's not going to leave you if you ask Him for help. We have to understand, we're not on our own, but we have to do our part. You can't just sit in the house and say, Allah will save me when I haven't done my part. So the first part of doing my part is to call on Allah. Make dua. Ask Allah for help. Ask Allah to send an opening. Ask Allah to send the firefighter, to send people who can help. And Allah will save you. So that's step one. And then after that, you do your part, whatever you can. As a community, we have a lot to change. As a community, we have a lot to change. But how is that change going to happen? It's by changing myself first, changing my family first, and changing for my children. If everybody changes the way they raise their children, the community changes.
The second question is, if somebody's stuck in the fire and they called for help, they did everything, they went to another person. That
Yeah.
person is the same thing.
In the
But
same
they
fire?
went to- And that person is doing the same thing, but the first one is doing. So you leave the second one, then you go to the third one. Third one is the same thing.
So what you're describing, what you're beautifully describing, I'm going to repeat what she's saying because what she's describing is important. She's saying, suppose you're in, a house that's on fire. You leave that house, you go in another house, and now you end up with someone else who also lights the house on fire. You leave that house, you go into another house with someone who lights the house on fire. What you're describing is what happens when we don't heal ourselves. Absolutely what you said is what's going to happen. What happens is that if I do not heal my wounds from childhood, I will continue to repeat the patterns. That is exactly what happens. I will go from burning house to new burning house to new burning house to new burning house. But that cycle does not stop until I actually do the work to heal myself.
So how do I know that I need to heal myself?
Sorry to interrupt you.
Alaikum salam. Thank you so much, Buna. Assalamu alaikum. How do I know that I need to heal myself? Okay, let me ask you a question. How do you know? Okay, so first, how do I know that I need to heal myself? How do I know? So how do I know that I have an infection in my tooth again? Pain and fever. You are going to know that you need to heal yourself because you're going to experience pain. You're going to experience pain in yourself. You're going to experience pain in your relationships. A lot of it. That's how you're going to know. There's something that needs to be fixed. Again, it goes back to the alarm. The pain is the alarm. The pain tells you there's a problem.